The supreme, profound, and sublime Dharma is difficult to encounter in a billion eons. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and kept it. I vow to attain the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme Bodhicitta. Let us now continue with our journey to the West. Not so sure why we're progressing rather quite slowly this time. What is the reason? In the past, we complete each of the stops rather very quickly, but now we are moving very slowly. We're talking about Phuntsog Rinpoche's teaching given at Boulder, and Phuntsog Rinpoche's given teachings at Mile High Church. He is giving teachings on the stage-by-stage practice of Milarepa to a group of audience with religion and without religion. And it seems that all the disciples are all the audience are quite satisfied with the content. To continue, Phuntsog Rinpoche said that everyone was willing to befriend with those who are altruistic and to take delight in helping others, including our family members, correct? If one particular family member treats us very kindly and grants us help, then we would take great delight in them and we would be very happy to see them. But if they're not, even in Tibet, it's the same thing. For example, if a family has two children, one treats the family really well and the other one not. Though as a whole, they're of one family. However, the attitude towards the two different children would be very different from the family members. Even the relatives would say that, well, this relative had treated me really well, so if he or she got sick, I will definitely take care of that person. But the other one, if the other relative doesn't treat the relatives well, then all the relatives not only they will not take care of that person, they will probably feel that, well, that's great, this person is sick. Unless a person is a bodhisattva, they would, of course, as a bodhisattva, they would treat everyone equally, but everyone will take delight to those who are altruistic and take delight in helping others, but everyone will dislike those who harbor hatred and harmful intentions towards others. The very essence of the Buddhadharma is to settle the mind to the truly peaceful and harmless path through mind training. Without anger in your mind, you would not attempt to harm others, either physically or verbally, but would be more happy to help others with all efforts. The key point of 84,000 Dharma teachings is none other than the training of the mind in this way. Therefore, if you think deeply and understand the true meaning of this, it would be impossible to remain unhappy or indifferent toward the Buddhadharma. Well, when Phuntsog Rinpoche gave teachings to the variety of audience, as you can imagine that he's been quite skillful, just as how nowadays people would try to promote a product nowadays on TV or on videos. They would speak of the benefits and how wonderful they are. So Phuntsog Rinpoche, instead of forcefully asking everyone to take refuge, rather to induce the joyful mind towards the Buddhadharma. Because the Westerners or people nowadays in general they really take joy and happiness or being liked as something that is really crucial to them. And then Phuntsung Rinpoche continued to tell another story, saying that there's another example I'd like to share with you. There used to be a non-Buddhist scholar who followed Mahashvara, which is a heretic's teaching, a non-Buddhist teaching, and later turned to Buddhism. In one of his works, he was known to have said that he, from his experience, that the more he understands the non-Buddhist philosophies, the deeper devotion and joy is generated in the Buddhist doctrine. And this particular person or the particular text that Phuntsung Rinpoche referred to is the praises to the Supreme we actually studied this year. So the more he contemplated on the non-Buddhist doctrine, the more he generated faith to Buddhist philosophy. Whenever I can really sync with this, I can really echo with what he said. The more I watch the news and read other non-Buddhist texts, the more I take delight in Buddhist philosophy. Those worldly information could drown people without letting them tread on the path of truth. So this is quite true. For instance, some heretics claim that killing people is a virtuous act. And particularly when at war, killing many enemies on a battlefield is victorious and worthy of praise. Whenever we look at non-Buddhist doctrine, whenever we look at heretics, and some of the heretics believe that the more of the people of other religions they kill, the more they are worthy and the more they are honored. We see such kind of incidents. The Buddha preached that killing is non-virtuous, no matter what. If you do something harmful to other beings, you will have to undergo the suffering corresponding to your harmful action. The result of harming others only brings pain and suffering. And besides that, there is no benefit. Also, some heretics claim that it is a virtuous act to commit adultery and destroy another person's family. There are people who claim that sexual misconduct is virtuous, but the Buddha preached that this is always non-virtuous. Because if you create disharmony and harm others, it is obviously not virtuous. It's impossible to imagine such kind of behavior is positive because it brings disharmony and hurt others. The only conduct that brings harmony to others, both mentally and physically, is considered virtuous. Now, what the heretics claim is indeed not a virtuous act. During our studies of the praises to the Supreme, we had learned about the doctrines of the heretics and compare the teachings between the heretics and the Buddha. Also in the teachings of the treasury of the philosophy and the treasury of wish fulfilling jewel, they both discuss quite in detail about the different teachings of heretics. Again, some heretics claim that speaking lies in order to attract hundreds of thousands of people to follow a certain path is virtuous, while the Buddha taught that speaking only truthful and honest words is virtuous. I do believe what the Buddha said, that lying can hardly be a wholesome act. Our root teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, was the only great spiritual guide who spoke of things as they are and spoke what is true. With his great love and compassion, all prophecies that the Buddha made throughout history have come to pass without any deception at all. The Buddha was straightforward and always said that if one's practice is carried out in a particular way, that will be the direction of the result. He always said that if one studies and practices the profound instructions, then results will occur after a certain period of time. All of these statements have been proven to be truth. Well, concerning the Tibetan people in the land of snows, although that is a small population in a remote and backward region, people born in this place have been following the practice of the Buddha's teaching, and consequently, many of them have achieved enlightenment. Currently, there are more than 5 billion people in this world, and right now, I think there are, as of now, I think there are about 7 billion. And back in Pontsum Rinpoche's, when Pontsum Rinpoche was giving this teaching, that was 5 billion. And then while the Tibetan population is only about 6 million, I'm not sure what is the population of the Tibetans now, maybe still 6 million, maybe more. But if we consider the ratio of accomplished spiritual practitioners among Tibetans, any other ethnic groups cannot compare with it. If we take out 6 million people out of any other ethnic groups or any other people of different regions and so on, you cannot compare the ratio of the accomplished masters than the Tibetans. If you don't believe this, you may take a trip to the land of Tibet and have a close observation of our people there. Then you will understand what I'm talking about. Over there, you can look at the lineage and then the history and then the records, and then take a look at how many people attend Rainbow Body, how many people attain true enlightenment and accomplishment and so on. If those temples and those villages and so on have records, and if you listen to them, you will definitely see the ratio of the accomplished masters. There are many lineages and schools in Tibetan Buddhism, and here I have just briefly mentioned the Kagyu lineage. If you cannot travel the entire Tibetan region, you must at least go to Ngari, to a small place where Milarepa stayed. By the virtue of his spiritual accomplishment, this great yogin could not be drowned by water nor burned by fire. He could move through rocks and mountains without any obscuration and could fly freely in the sky like a bird. In a number of historical holy sites, Milarepa left tangible signs of his remarkable achievements. Today, you can still make those pilgrimages to those places. Whenever you have the opportunity, you can go to this place in Ngari. If you travel up from Lhasa, there's a place called Gongtang. If you go there, many of you, I think, actually went there, including Khenpo Chimi Rinzin, and I've seen videos of that place. I've seen some of those sites where Milarepa built houses, where his grandmother, his relatives stayed, and the group of relatives who didn't treat him well, there's still sites of that left over there, and so you can take pilgrimage sites to there. If you think about it, many behaviors and activities of Jetsun Milarepa are quite rare in other regions, other religious traditions and nations. I am not fabricating anything. There may be some inconsistency between my narrative and other accounts. But this is only because I'm not familiar with certain details, but I don't have any intention to deceive you. I truly wish all of you can delve deeply into Buddhism. By doing so, I believe anyone who hasn't entered into Buddhism would find it impossible to refuse the Buddha's teaching. You would definitely take delight in the practice and in the teachings of the Buddha's teaching. Pontsum Rinpoche kept on emphasizing that you will fall in love with the Buddha's teaching. I think all of you, the practitioners, you first have to love the teaching of the Buddha. If you were to be forced into this doctrine and all that, then your practice wouldn't be successful. You first have to truly take delight in the teaching of the Buddha. For the final part of my teaching, I will mention the cultivation of the pure view, which is to directly practice what Buddha Shakyamuni or Vajradhara realized. This is the skillful practice of Vajrayana, which has many different methods of accomplishing methods to accomplish, such as shamatha and vipassana meditation. This is exactly the uncommon practice of Jetsun Milarepa, which led him to attain the ultimate enlightenment. Such Vajrayana practice of sacred mantra cannot be openly explained to anyone and to everyone. You can only explain it to the ones of sharp capacity, but this is limited to the people who possess the required capacity. As your guru explained it before, the Vajrayana practice is supreme and wondrous. However, in order to approach it and eventually reach the highest state of realization, one must start with a very basic practice. In fact, Trungpa Rinpoche started off teaching the Westerners by asking them to practice shamatha. Some of them are asked to practice 6 years of shamatha and then nungjo and all that. This follows the progressive training system in Buddhism, except those few ones. Not everybody can directly engage in the practice of sacred mantra without any fundamental trainings. In fact, the Kagyu lineage is very similar to the Nyingma lineage, including the requirement of nungjo and so on. I myself truly rejoice this traditional way, and if you have any questions regarding the stage-by-stage practice, we may have more discussion in this next couple of days, so please come and attend the teaching as scheduled. Initially, Ponsuk Rinpoche was going to arrange a Q&A session because many reported to him that the Westerners really enjoyed asking questions, so he planned to have a Q&A session. However, the event didn't really happen due to the time constraint. Anyhow, for the non-Buddhist present here, you may think, why is the teaching of sacred mantra kept a secret? Is it because this tradition has some faults that cannot be divulged? Certainly, there are no faults at all. But on the contrary, the essential points of Mantrayana are far more supreme than both Mahayana and Hinayana. In fact, people who follow sacred mantra, the teaching of the sacred mantra will inspire all the faithful ones who are able to connect on this level. Somehow, the Westerners are very easily to be connected to the Mantrayana teachings, and that is why some Khenpos and some lamas who first went to the West, and their suggestion to all of us were that we should not start off by giving teachings on precepts, rather just directly give them teachings of Mantrayana. Because of this, most great lamas in the land of Tibet, His Holiness 16th Karmapa and his regents, and the 4 regents including Situ Rinpoche, Kantu Rinpoche, and I think Chachu Rinpoche, and then as well as His Holiness Pendu Rinpoche in India, all try their best to propagate this ultimate and unparalleled teachings. Not only that these great masters are over there teaching the sacred mantra, the disciples or practitioners who practice the Mantrayana teachings all generate great insights. Then some may ask, why is it necessary to make it secret, since it can inspire people in this way? And then in the Tantra, it is stated over here, Ponsuk Rinpoche said that as Buddhist scripture states, this Buddhist scripture refers to Tantra. Here he says that the teaching of sacred mantra needs to be kept hidden, not because it has many faults, but because practicing it secretly leads one to achieve accomplishment. The Vajrayana teaching doesn't have any minor or major faults, but by keeping the practice secret or private, this will enable a practitioner to swiftly attain the fruition of enlightenment. Again, some may wonder, why does keeping it secret ensure the swift accomplishment? Just as some of the Tibetan medicines are kept are kept a secret by the doctors. The doctors would not expose the ingredients or the formula of the medication they subscribe to the patients beforehand, and then medicine would, because once the formula is disclosed, then the medicine may lose its potency to function. There is a very good formula in Tibetan medicine, and it is kept a secret, but it being prescribed to the patients. Once the patients know the formula, then the medicine doesn't work anymore, or at least not work as well. If this information is unknown to the patient, it will produce an immediate effect. The same is true in the case of sacred Mahayana teaching. It is exactly due to this reason that we are obliged to keep the teachings inaccessible to the public. Some of the teachings may be quite philosophical, and some of you may know this particular guideline. The guideline, in fact, follows this tendril, this dependent arising. Just like the Tibetan medicine, keeping the secret would lead to a swift accomplishment. We should stop here today.
Sonam dai damche zuba nye domna nibe jana banshe jan kirga nanchi ralon zuba Trubum solen drova drova sho